Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's class, Making Money as an Artist. I am your instructor, Adrienne Hodge, and I'm really excited about tonight's class. This is something new and different from what I usually do in these online Michaels classes. And if you are just joining us because you saw this class and haven't attended any other classes with me, I have been teaching drawing and painting classes for Michaels Online like this on this same time, Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. for over 2.5 years now. And it's been really rewarding and fun. And there is a huge catalog of my classes on YouTube and on the Michaels website under Fine Arts, where you can find those drawing and painting classes if you are interested. And I will be sharing a slideshow tonight that has some images from previous classes and even one upcoming class. So if you're curious about those and you've never attended one of these, you can find the recordings on YouTube or on the Michaels website. And yeah, we've got some classes coming up on acrylic painting in February. We've got a really fun diptych class on painting like for couples or for singles. Actually have them right here in front of me. I'll just show you if you're interested in this upcoming class. We're going to be making these fun little candy heart diptychs. And then we've got another class on underpaintings also coming up in February as well. And there is no class next week on Wednesday night because now I'm doing 1.5 hour long classes, 3 Wednesdays a month instead of 1 hour classes every Wednesday. So tonight's class is 1.5 hours long. And I've got this slideshow that I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to run through the slideshow and I'll pause for questions on each topic and try to answer all of the questions. If there are, any people who join the class late and ask a question that has already been answered, then, I'll probably just skip over it. And yeah, some of the topics in the class tonight are very basic, surface level, information about different aspects of making money as an artist. But if you're wanting more on these topics or you're wanting individualized help, like we're going to talk about pricing work, for example. And if your question is specific to you, like how do I price my work, then that is something, I can't answer in a class like this. I'm looking for more general Q&A type questions. But I do offer consulting services, and scheduling info can be found in my link tree, and I'm going to share that at the end of the slideshow for those watching later on YouTube. And Chanel can drop my link tree in the chat now for anybody who's curious before I get to the end of the slideshow. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started here. And I'm going to keep my eye on the chat. And then Chanel's going to support me if I miss any questions in the chat. Okay, let me just scroll down through our chat so far. Okay, so making money as an artist. So this class is for artists at a certain stage in their careers, in their art practice. So if any of the information that I'm about to share does not align with where you are now in your practice, then just keep practicing and keep working. And this recording will be on YouTube or on the Michaels website under Fine Art. So it will be there for you to come back to when you are ready. So if as I'm going through this, you're like, wow, this is, maybe overwhelming, or like, I'm not quite there yet, then like I said, this recording will be here for you when you are ready to start selling your work. Okay, so my goodness, there we go. Oops, went too far. I was like, it's not working when I pressed my button because I was clicking on the chat, not my slideshow. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is copyright law and creating original artwork. So this is exactly what I mean by, you may have a lot of questions right off the bat about this, what I'm about to say, and possibly you are not creating original artwork yet. And if you are not, then you know that you're maybe still in a phase of your career in art practice where you need to practice a little bit more and, get further along to where you do have original artwork and then, come back to this slideshow, which, like I said, this will be on YouTube. So I see somebody asking if there is a PDF or slides available. No, I did not make those available. But like I said, this recording will be on YouTube, so you can go back and pause and screenshots, whatever you'd like to do. Like that. Okay, so copyright law and creating original artwork. So this is a big topic, and I am not a copyright law, lawyer, and I'm not a complete expert on this topic. So I'll answer any questions on this as best I can. And it's a very tricky kind of gray area for a lot of people, and I have often gotten confused about what the rules are sometimes. So, do your own research on this if you'd like, but the kind of main like touchstone to come back to is that the only way to ensure that you have created artwork that does not infringe on the copyright of another artist is to independently create the art yourself. Okay. So here's a work of art of mine, which is very abstract, and I'm looking at ideas of asemic writing or illegible writing, writing that like has the feeling of text, but is not actually legible. So there's a lot of artists who have done similar things, but this is some original work of mine. And, I'm not looking at any reference images for this. This is kind of from my imagination or from this kind of visual language that I've created of shapes and forms that I work with through, practicing abstract art for many years. And so, yeah, I don't have to worry about, infringing on the copyright of anybody else because I know this particular work that I'm showing here is something that has come through, years of practicing on my own and developing these visual forms through my own practice. And I'm not looking at a reference photo. So, um, okay, so I see Florence has a question that I really love so far. They say, when do you call yourself an artist? I'm from Chicago. Ever been to the Art Institute? Oh, I thought you were saying that you have uh, attended the Art Institute. I was like, oh, that's cool to hear. But yes, I have been to the Art Institute in Chicago and I love it. And I love that question. When do you call yourself an artist? Because you don't need any credentials, in order to call yourself an artist. Like somebody who is making art is an artist. Children make art and are natural born artists. And sometimes, we live life and then the artist gets kind of, we outgrow the artist within us and we have to come back and kind of unlearn a lot of things that make us not call ourselves an artist sometimes. But um, anyway, so I really like that question. That's kind of a subjective question, but Donna is asking, am I showing my screen? I'm assuming everybody can see my screen. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing heads nodding. So, um, okay, and then we've got the question, can you use a reference photo if you took it yourself? Yes, of course. So that's what I want to get to next. Okay, so use reference images that you took yourself. Obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious since you asked. But yeah, if you took the photograph yourself, then you're creating your own reference image, and you you know are you are the creator of the reference image. So therefore, if you create work from that photograph, it's original artwork. So here's an example from an upcoming online class with Michael's coming in March 2024 using Faber-Castell Polychromos colored pencils. And I took this photograph on the right here and on a mountain, in a forest mountain in outside of Durango, Colorado many years ago, and that's the photograph that I'm using. And I'm also, distributing that photo for everybody who attends that class in March to create this work of art with. But, I'm teaching the class, and at the beginning of every class that I teach, I always say, tag your work with the hashtags, make it with Michael's or Michael's classes. And then I always say, tag me at Adrienne Hodge Art, and, or feel free to share it with me directly. So, by saying that, I'm therefore giving you permission to post that artwork, but I'm also asking you to credit me, right? I'm kind of politely, inviting you to credit me whenever you are sharing that artwork that you created from, my photograph that I shared with you. And then it's all, for practice. So if you were to take that artwork that you made from a class, uh, with Michael's, and then, you don't have my consent or my permission to then sell that work and, pass it off as your work, your original work of art, right? Or exhibit it in a gallery as your original work of art. So for teaching purposes, you're welcome to use my reference photos and to practice with them, and to post them online. But, obviously I wouldn't, be super cool with you posting it and not saying, like, or passing it off as your original work of art. Like, that's why I always invite you to tag me. But let's say you just find a photo that you want to use online to make a work of art, and you go ahead and make that work of art. If all you're doing is practicing, then it's fine. And you can, if you decide to post it online, you might want to reach out to the person who created that photograph and say, do I have your permission to, share this artwork that I created from your photograph? Or maybe even before you create the artwork, if you intend to post it online, you can ask that person for permission to use the photograph. And if you can't find who created the image in order to ask permission, and you want to use it for something more than just practicing, then I would advise you just not use it, because you are very likely infringing on someone else's copyright if you don't have permission to use that artwork. But some people are really flattered. I have reached out to friends when they post like vacation photos, or maybe I paint and draw a lot of clouds, and oftentimes people will post like pictures of clouds out of like an airplane window. And I have many times messaged a friend who posted a picture of clouds out of an airplane window and said, do I have your permission to use this photo in my work? And they're usually super flattered and happy to let me use their cloud photograph. But if I don't, do that, I wouldn't feel comfortable using that photograph. So I try to just use photos that I took myself. And all of the photos that I share with you as reference photos in my Michael's classes, they're all 100% photos that I took myself. So, or I have asked, like, we've drawn my friend Aubrey, for example. We have drawn my friend Aubrey's nose, and we have also drawn her face in a previous Michael's class. I ask my children, can I use this photograph of you? Or my boyfriend, if I use his photograph as a reference, I always ask permission before I use somebody else's photograph. Okay, so here's a question. What if you take a camera picture of a landscape that everyone knows, but it is your picture? Is there a copyright infringement? Okay, so I'm assuming, I'm not quite sure what you mean, but I think you mean like a famous like, let's say like the Grand Canyon, like a photo that a lot of people have stood in that same spot and took that photograph, but it's your photo. If you took the photo, you're good. You have permission to use it. Okay, let's see. I'm an artist and design major at Townsend. I'm into watercolor painting. Hi, Sarah. Let's see. What if I do something original from my imagination and someone takes a picture of it because I shared it on Instagram and I never copyright and they do the same painting? So that's a great question. If you create an original work of art, it is automatically like your copyright exists like the second the work is created. And you can have things like registered if you're worried about somebody, and you can, if you're worried about somebody infringing on the copyright of your work that you post online, you could try putting like a watermark in there. You could put your like your, you know, like I could put at Adrian Hodge Art kind of like as a watermark at the bottom of the work, or like a stamp or something that's kind of hard to crop out of the image. I see a lot of people doing that. People do that with memes even, because, you know, people are always sharing memes without giving credit to the original creator. So sometimes the original creator will put it right there, you know, kind of as like a stamp in the image of the meme itself, you know, so that they will always have credit, even if it gets like reposted and reshared. So that's a good question. Sharon says, what about using royalty-free stock footage for references? Okay, I knew we were going to get this question. Yeah, so that it's a slippery slope, Sharon. It's a slippery slope. Um, yeah, there's so many websites online that say they are royalty-free stock footage. And, you know, I know plenty of people who use them. I don't touch that because not this is the part of the class where I'm like, you know, I don't want to misspeak or so I'm just going to tell a personal story, or a story of you know, somebody who I know who had attended a like, what was it? It was basically like a call for people to get free headshots. And so they went to this place and they dressed up and they had their photograph taken so that they could use the headshot in their professional work. And then that image, though they didn't read the fine print, you know, I guess at the time, anyway, that image was then released as like a stock image, and it was used on merchandise, and it was used in a lot of ways. And that the person who's in the photograph never got compensated for the usage of that. And you know, I don't know like the details honestly of the story, but I just know that, you know, there can be a lot of fine print. There can be issues with consent not being given in certain ways for images to be used in certain ways. And there can be, you know, just a lot of there's plenty of stories out there about photographers getting you know, kind of the short end of a stick, or a person in the photograph in I just stay away from it. I really just don't trust the royalty-free stock images, because I don't know the full story of where those images were, you know, obtained. And so I just think it's better to just use photos that I took myself. And if I can't find an image of a particular thing, just, you know, come up with a different idea, you know, or hire a model, you know, to like do a certain thing if you like really are like serious and really want to have this like work that's like 100% created on your own. Like, you know, great example, I've wanted to teach figure drawing classes for Michael's 2 years ago, and was just teaching with the wooden mannequin. And so you know, I said, well, how about I hire a model and take some photographs, you know, of the model, and then we use those for figure drawing classes. And so that's what we did. So if you recall, or if you have attended one of those classes on figure drawing using those model references, I, you know, hired those models and took those photographs myself, and then shared them with the Michaels classes so that we could draw the human figure. Uh, okay, let's see. What other questions do we have here? I feel like a lot of messages have popped up while I've been talking. If you are a photographer and you photographed a music artist, can I sell my prints? That may be a question you might want to research yourself, because like I said, I'm not like a copyright law expert. I'm just an artist and an art teacher, and I'm gonna kind of share with you like what I know about the business side of the art that I make. So that's a really great question, but it's maybe not in my wheelhouse. So I don't know what the like. I do happen to know some photographers who photograph musicians, but I don't know what the rules are in that realm. So that's maybe you could reach out, for some consulting services from a photographer who makes a living photographing musicians. And maybe if somebody else in the audience has an answer for them, they could reply to that question in the chat there. Can you reference an artist's lyrics in your painting, then sell the painting? That's a good question. I would not do that without permission from the artist. I would, write some text myself to use. And actually, I use a lot of text in my work. And one thing that I did I put a lot of physics equations in my work. I signed up to audit classes on quantum physics and neuroscience classes at the University of Texas here in Austin so that I could get notes that I took on the physics equations and then put, my notes of the equations in the text. So, I mean, I was quoting those instructors, in some places, but yeah, I feel like that's safe. But when it's something like that, like lyrics, I would reach out to somebody has a subset of that question. What about a book as the name of the painting? So titles of work, I do sometimes title my work with lyrics from songs or excerpts from songs. I think that's safe because, and if I'm wrong there, then I will maybe have to redact that later. But I think that's okay to do as far as titling the work because, there's tons of if you search the title of a song, there might be, 10 songs with that same title. But they're, all different songs. So I think titles are fine. How much of a poem of an artist author would be used in your art? Like I said, I would, oh, well, here, let me go to my next slide. That may help with some of these questions. Okay, so this is from the Library of Congress for unpublished anonymous works and works where the death date of the creator is not known. The copyright term is 120 years from the date of creation. And then works created on or after January 1st, 1978 are generally protected for the creator's life plus 70 years. So it's the death date plus 70 years. But then if it's before 1978, you know, this is another one of those things where honestly, I get confused by all of this. So I just try to create work that's 100% original. If I want to put some writing or some text in my work, try to obtain the writing myself, write the writing, the text myself. Or get permission from the person. Oh, and actually I have a really great story about this. I used to be a high school art teacher, and if anybody has ever participated in UIL or VACE, my God, I cannot think of it's the visual art. What does VACE stand for? I should know what VACE stands for, having been a high school art teacher. But it's a um, statewide competition like UIL. And when students create work in their art classes that they want to submit to VASE, they're beholden to all of these copyright laws, and they are not allowed to submit work that is not original work either. And so it cannot win at VASE. Like they literally have to go up to a table before they can submit the work at the beginning of the day. They have to go to a table and talk to somebody who kind of makes sure that they, independently created it. Like if there's a photograph of a person in the work, they have to have written permission to use that photograph if they didn't take the photographs themselves. Um, and one of my students had drawn this really lovely drawing from a screenshot from a music video of a musician that she really admired, and she really wanted to submit it. And I was like, oh, well, like the only way you can, submit this is if we have permission, from the artist to use the screenshot from their video. I was like, or you could, I mean, one like workaround I was trying to come up with is like, maybe do you have a friend who looks like the person in the video that you could take a picture of them? And we could like try to recreate the photo itself, which is maybe fudging it a little bit, but that was one idea that I had because she was scared to reach out to the musician. It was an independent musician. I can't remember their name, but she found them on she followed them on Instagram. She messaged them directly and they were honored and so thrilled to give her permission to use the screenshot for her video. So not only did she get permission to use the image, but she got to reach out to her, this musician that she admired. It was really gratifying and fun. So, you know, reaching out to people and getting permission is not the worst thing. Um, okay, so it doesn't matter. So to be clear, it doesn't matter if the source is from a professional or not. If it's not your own photo, then you should ask for permission. Exactly, Jen. Yes. Even if you're like, you know, this is my friend on Facebook and they wouldn't mind, like, and you just do it without asking them. Maybe they do. Maybe you make $1 million off of their photograph and then they're gonna mind. So yeah, get permission. Does this apply to free assets online? I've seen that you're supposed to credit them. Is that in the titling of the piece that you do that? Okay, so I feel like some of these questions are, I don't want to get too in the weeds on this. I've got a lot I want to cover and we're already 30 minutes in, but I knew there were going to be a lot of questions about the copyright thing here. I feel like I've answered, you know, I'm gonna just keep repeating myself. But yeah, you want to get permission from the artist. Let me just scroll through these. Um, I've been watching Let's Make Art on YouTube. Is it okay to use an outline from the teacher? If you're practicing with that art, it's okay to practice with art that you find online, but you don't necessarily have the permission from that teacher to then sell the work from the class. So all right, Deborah says, what about your version of the Mona Lisa? I don't know how the Lisa is listed as far as open source goes.
Hey, Adrian. I just want to shout out this one comment
Okay.
about copyright from a librarian that I think might be good for a lot of these people who are trying to get in the nitty-gritty of copyright law.
Yeah.
Alexa says, as a librarian, I would suggest that if you need help with copyright questions, that you contact your local public librarian. We are not lawyers and will not give you legal advice, but we will help you navigate the world of copyright.
Oh, that's a great suggestion. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll past a lot of these because yeah, I feel like Chanel just hit the nail on the head there. We're like getting into the nitty-gritty here. And like I said, I'm not a copyright law lawyer. I do know a couple. I suggest you reach out to them. They, their hourly rates are what they are worth, because their knowledge is worth a lot of money. So it's worth the investment in a copyright lawyer consultation to answer these questions when you're ready to sell some work that you're unsure of the permission that you have. Okay, so I want to move on from copyright here to our next. Oh, but actually I wanted, so this image that I shared here of these old photographs, that's something that I use a lot in my work as I go into thrift stores and I find old vintage photographs that have been, surrendered by people to thrift stores. And, if you can find a photo that's from even a painting from 1903 or 1904, and you can't find any, like information that the estate of that artist is still being run by, their family or something, and then it's probably not protected and it's safe to use it. I mean, I say probably, like do your homework and do your research if you're unsure of it, but generally I feel pretty safe using old vintage photographs, especially if I find like things like turn of the century, that are over 120 years old. Okay, so moving on from copyright. So once you have original art that you're making from, you know, your original source material and references and everything, and you feel safe and confident that you're not infringing on the copyright of other people, or you're, just getting permission to use those things so you feel safe in that way. Um, then you're ready to start, distributing your work, exhibiting your work, selling your work, posting it online as your original work. So a good thing to do if you haven't already done this and you're at that stage in your art career and practice is to create an artist statement. And these are some questions that you can answer to create an artist statement. What materials do you primarily use? Where do you find inspiration? What subjects or ideas influence your work? And why are you passionate about this subject or these ideas? Like I mentioned that I audit the classes at University of Texas sometimes and use the notes from my work. I should mention that I have told the professors that that's my intent when I'm doing that. So they're aware that I'm going to be taking notes and using those notes aesthetically in my work. So I am getting consent from the professors to do that, to use those notes. Or I'm using really old textbooks and things like that. Um, anyway, so yeah, answer these questions. Why are you passionate about this subject or these ideas? These are questions that you can start from to create an artist statement. And here is a brief segment of my artist statement. This is kind of my like quick little blurb that I will use if I want to keep it short and sweet. I do have a longer version of my artist statement that like goes a little more in depth in those questions. And you can research other artist statements if you go to an artist website who you admire and read their about section on their website. You'll be reading something that's like their artist statement somewhere in there, or more like their biography. But you can model your artist statement after other artist statements that you've read like that, but this is mine. So I'm a multimedia artist and art educator, and I work primarily in calligraphy ink. My work explores the incandescent quality of life events, imagined landscapes, asemic writing, and dreams. So that's like a very brief description of my work. I'm saying what materials I use, like who I am, what I do, what I'm passionate about. That's it. Like, keeping it short and sweet is a good rule of thumb. And when you apply to have your work exhibited, at a gallery or in a group exhibition, or maybe you want to apply for an artist residency, those sort of things, you're usually going to want to have an artist statement prepared. so that, people can, when they see your work in the gallery, then look and read your artist statement somewhere nearby. So that's good to have that prepared. Let me see if there are any new questions. I'm still moving on from the copyright. I know there were more questions on that, and we can come back to some of these copyright questions later if there are any that maybe Chanel, you could help me. Like if there's one you feel like I'm going to skip past them if they look like they're about copyright right now, but we can come back to them at the end if you feel like there's one I could address. And I love that some of you are responding to each other and helping each other out with some of these more specific questions. Brittany, your question about can you use multiple reference photos to create your own work that won't necessarily look like the reference photo that you use, but use to help create your idea? That is something I feel like I was doing earlier in my career, but the further along I've gotten, I don't feel comfortable doing that anymore. So I try to, even if I, want to come, only take a little bit here and there, just get the reference photos myself. I just, the further I get into my career and the higher I price my work, the more my conscience just tells me I want my conscience to be clear. I want to create the work 100% independently so that I don't have to worry about it. And one thing I like to, another blanket answer for a lot of these is if you feel like you're crossing the line or you feel like you're in the gray area. So a lot of these questions y'all are asking are like, well, what about this gray area? Like if we're in the gray area, we're over the line. Just get back on the other side of the line, like let's just ask permission or create the content ourselves. Okay. It's so hard to move on from this because y'all have questions that are, I get it. What do you do when you love multiple mediums? I've had another art business teacher say only stick to one medium at a time, but I love so many mediums, especially wood burning and gouache. Yeah, embrace all of them. I mean, that's why I say I'm a multimedia artist, working primarily in calligraphy ink because I don't just work in calligraphy ink. Um, so I'm a multimedia artist. I do think finding a style and sticking to that style within those different mediums is a good way to, kind of land somewhere that makes your work recognizable as your work. But yeah, I wouldn't advise shying away from all the things you're passionate about. And, and if your style is kind of still all over the place, then that's where you are, like I'm not saying you can't still sell work by having a style that's not quite recognizable yet. That's, where you are is where you are. And all right, Roderick is asking about pricing artwork. I'm going to get to that. Okay, Sharon, looks like you had a question about the nitty-gritty of copyright, and someone's helping you with that. Yeah, finding a copyright law lawyer is a great idea, so that you can consult with them. Because, like I said, I am not that. All right, yeah, let's come back to some of these questions. I agree. Thank you. Somebody said let's because I'm gonna maybe answer some of these. I'm gonna just keep going now that we're getting far into the hour and a half here, and then I'll come back and scroll through these questions. All right, so photographing your original art to post and sell online using your smartphone. So you've made the original art, you're confident that it is your intellectual property that you have permission to go forth and share. And now you just want to get some images of it so you can post it online or maybe even apply to things because we can get high res images from photos that we took on our smartphone. But people run into issues with just wondering how to photograph it. So natural light works best to reduce unwanted shadows when you're photographing your artwork. So you can take it outside or lay it flat near a window or a door. Going outdoors on a nice day and photographing the artwork outside is good, but then, maybe putting something underneath it. This is one where I didn't put anything underneath it just so you could see that it was in the grass there. Um, but I might put like, drop cloth or a big piece of mat board or something underneath it and photograph it outside on a nice day. Or usually I just go right by my back door and do it in the natural light. Or you can do it indoors um, with a ring light, works really nicely to reduce shadows, or, maybe you'll see like your hand shadows over it when you stand over it. If it's in, nice, clear sunlight coming in, even on an overcast day, you can do it with natural sunlight and reduce those shadows. But if you do still have some shadows, then you can use a photo editing app on your smartphones, just the photo editing features that come standard with your smartphone to crop it, reduce blemishes, or enhance the details in the work. And some things that you want to manipulate are the exposure, highlights, shadows, contrast, and saturation until you are satisfied with the results. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and run through my whole slideshow. I think now that we're past the copyright, and I will come back. I knew there were going to be the most questions about that. But if you have a question about photographing your work, just put it in the chat and I will hopefully have time to come back to it at the end. And Chanel's going to help me to make sure that I don't miss any, really important questions that I haven't answered by the end. Okay. So yeah, if you've taken the photos with your smartphone and you're having trouble getting the resolution, or everything about the photo to be where you want it to be in order to apply to a gallery show or submit it, or even, post it online. Most galleries or organizations require images to be 300 DPI, which is dots per inch. And you can, usually like years ago, before I understood how to, what this meant, sometimes I would just try it with a photo that I had. And it'll usually say like you'll attempt to upload a photo that is not 300 DPI into, a submission form like that, it'll just reject it. It'll say, your photo is too small, like, please make it, bigger, or your photo is too large. So, then you go in and you edit the size of the photo to get it to be 300 DPI in order to submit it. And using a nice digital camera, you can easily take resolution images yourself. And if you don't have a nice digital camera, but you have a nice digital scanner and the artwork will fit on the scanner, you can also scan the work yourself to obtain high resolution images yourself. Or you can hire a photographer to take these images for you. Or you can take your artwork to a professional print shop and have your artwork scanned and then have high quality prints made. So I did this when I applied to art school in my 20s. I was attending Austin Community College and I wanted to attend the University of Texas. And it was right at the tail end of where they still required slides. Things were not digital, but I had to have physical slides of my work. So I hired a photographer to take photographs of my artwork. And then I took those photos to a print shop that printed out the little slides for me. And then I mailed those to the art school to apply to art school. So, if you're having trouble and you can't do it yourself, then enlist a professional to take the photographs for you. And I use Miller Imaging and Digital Solutions in Austin, Texas for all of my scans and art prints. And I highly recommend them. And you can tell them I sent you. They're my good buddies over there. I've been using them for, I know not everybody attending this is in Austin, Texas, but you probably have a really nice print shop in your town that you can go to, and they can you know, scan your work, or you can contact a photographer to help you do that. Okay, so moving on to commission work. This is another way that that I make money as an artist, in addition to selling my original artwork or selling prints of my work, and teaching classes. I also will do commissions from time to time. And so I have this list of commission work do's and don'ts. And I feel like just saying, this is like in a perfect world. These are the things that one might do when they are accepting commission work. And in case you're curious, I have broken every single one of these rules here. So all of these things that I'm telling you do and don't do, I have done the opposite. So I've been doing commissions professionally for, I guess, yes, 8 or 9 years now. Okay, so yeah, in a perfect world, I think the best way to make money and not lose money as a commission artist is to only take on commissions you are confident and comfortable completing in a requested timeline. Like if you're worried that it's going to take up too much of your time and bandwidth, I would just say no, because you're probably going to be losing money if the hourly rate that you're going to end up doing, if it's something that you're going to have to learn how to do it in order to do it, then maybe you're not ready to take on that commission. Always have 3 to 4 options ready to send to a client. People like fast responses. So if somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, can you, paint a portrait of my child? You say, you don't want to wait weeks to respond to them and be unsure of how to reply to them. So I always have 3 to 4 kind of standard options ready to send to somebody. If I'm accepting commissions at that time, I might just say, sorry, I'm not accepting commissions right now, or I'm already booked up, or, whatever the case may be. But if I am, I'll send them, I'll, have like kind of a tiered system of like, a really big size and a really big material. Like I could do it on the largest sheet of paper that I work on, for this rate, or I could do it on a smaller piece of paper for this rate, or I could do this medium size for this medium rate. And all of those rates are rates that I feel are fair and in alignment with my needs to be able to accept the commission. And that way, even if they accept the cheapest option that I sent them, I'm still going to be comfortable completing that. And then I always collect a deposit before I begin work on the commission. I haven't always done that, but I highly recommend that you do that. So my policy is I collect 50% of the commission fee plus the cost of the materials before starting work on the commission. And then I collect the other 50% upon completion and delivery of the work. And I've been doing that. That's been my standard policy for over, I would say 6 years now. And I've never had a client in the past 6 years since I've been doing that take issue with that. People always, in my experience, have found that to be a really fair ask. And, I just kind of get on the art supply website like Michael's, where I plan to purchase, like they take my middle of the road option, let's say, and they're like, I want it to be a 16 by 20 size, then, and they want it to be full color, then I will look online and see like, what the general cost is, and I create like an estimate, in my quote of the materials fee, adding tax, and I say, okay, it's, 50% of this rate plus the cost of the materials. And then they send me that. And then once I have the materials, I begin work. We talk about the timeline and when it will be, completed. And if I need to, communicate and request an extension on that deadline or timeline, people are usually pretty cool, unless it's like, I have done commissions for clients where they did need it by a certain day. But most of the time, if it's a gift or something like that, they might want it on by a certain date, but otherwise, people tend to be okay with extensions. It just depends on the person. Price commissions according to what you feel your work is worth, not according to a client's budget. That is doing the opposite of that is a quick trip to resentment town. It's hopping on the bus to resentment town really quickly if you're like, okay, I'll do it for this rate that's like way below what I think my work is worth because I, want to, meet this person's budget. And like I said, I've done that plenty of times, and it usually at the end of that commission, I have regrets. So I say I would rather say no than take on something that's way below what I think my work is worth. So yeah, be willing to say no if the rate or conditions of the commission are not in alignment with your rates, values, or realistic work timelines. And if you have questions like, well, what if it's a friend? Well, what if? The class is called Making Money as an Artist. So these are the ways to make money, right? I could probably teach a whole other class called Losing Money as an Artist, and that would be not doing, just do the opposite of all this stuff. But yeah, put the terms of the agreement of a commission in writing and have the client sign off on the agreement. That's a good way to, ensure that nothing squirrely happens. If you're in Texas, I forget what it's called, but basically, if you have an email from somebody with an agreement, that is a legal and binding contract in Texas. I don't know if that's the law in other states, but in Texas, if I have an email where we've put the terms of the agreement in writing, then that's, a binding contract. But, you could always draw up a little contract and have them sign it as well if you really wanted to, you know, cover your bases. And then, yeah, add on additional fees for modifications, additional requests made beyond the original agreement. If they're like, can you paint, you know, my kid, and you're like, yes, and you agree to it, and then they're like, actually, can you paint this picture of my kid and 5 other people? That's an exaggeration, but like, well, yeah, but that's going to cost extra, right? Okay, so these are my don'ts. And again, if it's a trade with a friend or you're doing it as a favor or you're just learning, like obviously do those things if that's what you want to do. But the class is called Making Money as an Artist. So these are the things you shouldn't do if you're trying to make a profit on commission work. So yeah, working for free or working for exposure, quoting a client way below your rate just to get the commission, sending image updates to a client before a project is complete. Highly discourage people from doing this because, like I said, I've been doing commissions a long time. And that is another little like kind of hiccup thing that I've done in the past where I've learned the hard way. Unless I really need feedback in order to continue or complete the project, the client will not see the work until I'm delivering it to them. Because otherwise they may, have they're gonna have their comments and everything, and it can very easily derail things or just, become tricky situations. So I advise against that. And people are usually, since I've stopped doing that or offering that, nobody asks for it if I'm not offering it. And then, yeah, don't start work without a deposit. I've heard really scary, horror stories out there about people getting ghosted. when they didn't collect a deposit from somebody, or somebody just saying, never mind. People are usually not going to say never mind if they put a deposit down on a commission. And then price your work according to someone's budget. I kind of already said this, in the dues, but yeah, just say no if it's, if they can't afford your commission rate, then that's not the time for them to be commissioning work from you if you're trying to make money. And yeah, doing extra work for no additional pay. Okay, we're nearing the end here of my slideshow, so there's going to be plenty of time for me to go back and look at all these questions. In case y'all were wondering, I've just got one more thing here after pricing your work. Okay, so price your work at what you think it is worth, not what you think your average customer can afford. It's really hard to kind of second guess or guess at what people are willing to pay, or what if you're trying to cater to this specific audience. I think it's better that you price your work at what you think it's worth it, because at the end of the day, you don't want to regret your sale or wish you had charged more for your original work. And so these two pieces that I have here in this slideshow, these are very sentimental works of art that I made in 2019 and 2020. They are kind of autobiographical, and I feel very strongly about them, and I have them priced at a make me part with them price. And I've had a lot of people come through my studio, during the Austin studio tour, especially is when I open my studio up. We also have a monthly open studio event at my studio, Canopy in East Austin, where people come through, and I've had a lot of interest in these, and people have said, they wished they could afford them, but they're not, they don't have the budget to be able to afford my asking price. And I'm always like, thank you so much. It's been really nice talking to you today. Like, thank you for that feedback. I'm not willing to slash the price on these particular works because they mean a lot to me, and I would rather have them than part with them for below the price that I've asked for them. But there's plenty of other stuff that I am willing to, reduce my price on and part with things, or to like just have like the digital scan of the work so I can still offer prints of it. Like one of the pieces earlier in the slideshow, I have sold the original for a really nice asking price that I was very comfortable with. And I've sold prints of it since then. I miss it. I wish I still had it. But I'm happy with the person who purchased. They're like a great collector of my work. And, I made a really nice paycheck, and I continue to sell prints of it. But, that was the price I was asking for it. But these, like, unless somebody's willing to pay that price, I will keep them. Here's another piece that I've sold the original of, but I can still sell prints of it. So if you're unsure of how to price your work, you can research other artists in your community or online who make work that is comparable to yours, or with the same materials. So example, if you are a watercolorist working primarily in landscapes, you can try to find other landscape watercolorists to see how their pricing scales compare to each other, and then see, what's kind of the standard rate that they're charging, and like, does that align with the price that you would want to part with that work? And then, you put a price somewhere close to that on that work. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say there. I can always answer any questions on this topic when we're done here soon. My other piece of advice here is to always price things at least 20 to 30% higher than the lowest rate that you would be willing to accept, so that you can haggle and come down in price for the right buyer or collector. And I have a really great story about this. There was a painting that I had up in my studio during the Austin studio tour. That tends to be where I make a lot of my big sales as an artist here in Austin. And it was something that was kind of in an older style. I wasn't really painting in that style anymore. I had moved on to painting, in the style like I've shown you with the calligraphy ink, but this was something more like how I was painting in college. And anyway, I had this large painting, I had it up, and I had it up for basically the lowest price that I would want for it. That was the price I had on the wall. So I wasn't willing to come down any lower than that because I honestly think it was worth more than that. Like I had it out at like the bargain bin price, right? And this guy really wanted it. His wife was not into it, but he really wanted it. And he kept kind of making a lap and coming back and really wanting it. But like every time he came back and was like on the fence about whether or not he wanted it, I couldn't come down any lower on the price because I already had it set at the lowest price that I was willing to accept for it. So I had no like bargaining room with him. And I always think back to that now when I am pricing things. And I think, you know, like sometimes I'll price things a little high, but I'm like, well, I'm willing to come down lower. If the right person is really interested, then they'll say, oh, I really want it, but I can't afford, that price. And then I can say, oh, well, actually, I'll do this number. And then we're haggling. And then sometimes I make the sale, sometimes I don't. But if you don't leave yourself any room to do that, if you're putting it at like the bargain bin price right out of the gate, then you have no, bargaining power. And then consider the cost of the materials used to complete the work you are making, along with the time it takes to complete it, and the years of practice that went in to being able to complete this original work of art. So, if I've spent all these years, 20 years practicing art to be able to make this art, and then I spend, you know, all this money on these expensive materials to make the art. Let's say I spent $300 on the materials, but then I'm only asking $150 for the painting. I'm losing money, right? My overhead cost is way more than the work that I made. So that's the whole like, don't price it at what you think people can afford, price it at what it's worth. If they can't afford it, then they're not the right, purchaser of that work. And then another good example that I have here is if I spend $14 to have an artwork scanned, which is what I have done, and then $60 to have it printed, then selling the print for $100 means I have spent more to have it printed than I have made on the print sale. And you can see I've got some artwork pictured here. So that's this very large paper size that I work on quite often. I've got all of these things hanging on this rack, this clothing rack in my studio. A lot of these are archival prints that I get printed at Miller Imaging, and they are, like replica size of the original works of art. So like I think y'all can see my cursor because I'm sharing the screen. So like this right here is 22 by 29, right? And a lot of these prints are 22 by 29. It costs me $14 to have this scanned and then $60 to get a print made that is that size. And before, when I first started selling the prints, I was like, didn't think people would want to spend more than $100 on a print this size. So I was pricing them at $100. And then I realized I'm spending $74 on this first print, like $60 to have it printed. And then I'm really only making, like $36 here because, after the scan and the print, like that is silly, just to like be within other people's budget. So I'll just tell you, I ask $400 for those prints and I've sold lots of those prints. I mean, because I think that's what the print is worth. It costs me $60 to have one printed. So So I want to like actually make a profit off of my print. So keep that in mind. How much does it cost I have my work printed on this German etching watercolor paper that's really nice, thick paper. They're really high quality prints. They look almost, I think, identical to the original. So I think it's worth it to ask that amount. I know I've been careful not to say numbers too much, but I'll tell y'all that number because that's a good example of like, of pricing something. Okay, this is my last slide, or second to last slide. Additional ways to make money as an artist. You can offer private lessons, which I offer. If you are interested, I will share with you how you can get in contact with me in just a moment. I teach classes in person and online in my specialty, and you could also offer a class online or in person if you had the space to do that. And you can also make merchandise, excuse me, to sell at art fairs or markets. So since I have like a lot of higher price points on a lot of my original work and prints, and it's maybe not in the budget for a lot of people, but they want to collect an original piece of work from me, then I make these little things that I can make pretty fast, and I find it fun to make them. So I make these little bookmarks and notebooks. They're hand painted notebooks and bookmarks, and I have these for sale in my studio. I've, done some booth work at different, art fairs and markets before. I don't do that very often since I, open up my studio once a month. That's kind of like a built-in art fair that I do once a month at my studio. But yeah, I sell these little notebooks and bookmarks. That's one like smaller price point thing that I do to have, some money coming in. And that's another way is making smaller merchandise, buttons, bookmarks, hand painted notebooks like that. Those are some good ideas. Okay, and so that's what I've got. And then if you are interested in getting more like individualized consulting from me regarding your specific, you know, journey as an artist, I do a lot of consulting work for artists, and I've helped a lot of emerging artists early in their career be able to kind of make that leap from like, making sellable work to actually putting their work out there. And I can help you set goals and get to where you're going in that regard. And so you can follow my little link tree here or just Google Adrienne Hodge art link tree, and it'll take you right here. Or Chanel dropped it into the chat earlier. I've got this linked with my calendar, and you can, through Calendly, you can book a free 15-minute consultation call with me or a private lesson or consulting session with me if you're interested. And then I also have, where you can sign up for my next Michael's class. And, if you're in person in the Austin area, other in-person classes like I teach at the Contemporary Austin art school at Laguna Gloria. And then I started this new online draw club on Saturday mornings on Zoom. So you can maybe sign up for that, or you can check out, sign up on my mailing list. You can shop my print collection or my original artwork, all that stuff. You can check all that out here. Okay, so we have 21 minutes left, and we can even go over a little bit if there are any burning questions that I don't get a chance to answer. So Chanel, you want to help me out?
Yes, I grabbed a bunch of questions.
Okay.
Most of them are actually not about copyright, so I think that's great.
Okay, great. I'm going to stop sharing, by the way.
So the first two questions kind of go together. The first one is, what do you recommend to edit your artwork for print? And the second one is, do you have a specific application or program you use to edit your photos?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do use just the editing software that comes on my phone. Photoshop is a good one but if you're not skilled with Photoshop or you don't have that Adobe package, there's a free one that somebody recommended to me recently. I think it's called GIMP. But there's also I found free websites that I've used. Like they have like it's kind of like one of those apps where you have to like pay for more advanced features, but like just the standard like features are available. So if you just search free photo editing on Google, you can find a website like that. And then you can just do the standard editing without having to like pay for extra software like that. And then on my smartphone, a photographer friend of mine in town who she teaches private lessons and she teaches here in Austin. Her name is Shelley Wood. She told me about she teaches smartphone photography skills. So you should check her out. She's on Instagram. My God, I am blanking on her Instagram handle, but it's Shelley Wood, Shelley Wood, and she's really great for helping with like photo editing like on your smartphone and making photos look like expert level just by editing them on your phone. And she has even gotten work in museums, like museum level photography from editing on her smartphone. So check her out, Shelley Wood, for that class. She told me about an app called Snapseed, and I've been using that one ever since. So yeah.
The next couple of questions kind of go together as well. How many works of art should you submit in your portfolio to a gallery for review? Can you talk more about portfolios, number of pieces, variety, sizes, etc., and how to create a portfolio when you have mixed media like photography and textile?
The gallery will usually set a limit on how many photos they want you to submit. So there's usually not a whole lot of guesswork there. I think 10 to 20 is a good number to have prepared. That's what a lot of like to submit for an exhibition, they ask for 10 to 20 is a good number. And then what was the second part of that question?
Hold on one second. How do you create a portfolio when you have mixed media like photography and textile?
Oh, photograph the work as best you can, even if it's 3D. Like there's a lot of tutorials you could maybe find on YouTube about photographing 3D work, kind of setting up like what I've seen a lot of ceramic artists do, ceramicists do is like kind of create like a box, that you can put the work inside of this box and then photograph the work like with a nice backdrop. I used to do a similar thing when I photographed student ceramic work back for, like UIL and vase when I taught middle school and high school. So just kind of create like a
Um,
pedestal, and photograph the 3D work on a nice backdrop.
this question also kind of goes with all of that. How do we go about marketing our art to galleries?
Um, so just, go on that gallery's website and see what opportunities they're offering. If they've got an open call for solo exhibition or group exhibitions, then you can apply to those call for art in some way. You could try contacting the gallery directly, although that doesn't always, yield the results that you're looking for, but it never hurts. You can also, I highly recommend becoming like a patron of that gallery, showing your face, going there, getting to know the people there, attending openings and events and things and getting to know them. That way it's not kind of like a cold call situation when you are then marketing yourself to them. You've kind of networked a little bit and made your presence known and developed a rapport and a relationship with the people who work there. That's been benefited me in my experience, like I see attending art openings and events like that as part of my job. Like my partner, you know, understands that that is something that it's like if he is my plus one to this art opening or this event or art gala or whatever, this networking event, he recognizes that like I'm at work, this is like a part of my job is this like the social aspect of networking in that regard. And sometimes, a lot of us artists are introverts and it's really hard to like get out of our comfort zone and do stuff like that. Having a friend, like my partner isn't always the best person to bring to an event like that, even though like I think it'll be a fun date. It's maybe a better idea to bring like another artist with me as my plus one so that we can, kind of be each other's support system in the networking game because it's part of the package.
What do you do when you love multiple mediums? I've had another art business teacher say only stick to one medium at a time, but I love so many mediums, especially wood burning and gouache.
Okay, yeah, that was a good one. I actually did answer that one earlier because I saw
Oh,
that one.
sorry.
Yeah,
I am multitasking and it is hard for me
I
sometimes, so
know
that
there's a
that is
lot.
my bad. Sorry about that.
I appreciate you.
What are your thoughts on selling art online or eBay, similar sites like that?
Um, I have never sold art on eBay, or um, but it can be done, I'm sure. I just have an online shop where I post my work and people can purchase the work directly in my online shop. I use Big Cartel, by the way. I like it because you can accept a lot of different types of payment. I used to have a Squarespace website, and the standard payment that you could accept on Squarespace was PayPal. Not everybody has PayPal, so I wondered if I was maybe losing sales that way. And with Big Cartel, it's all of my classes and uh, artworks are listed like products. Even if it's a class, it's kind of listed as a product. But I feel like it works, and people can submit all different types of payments. So I recommend using that. But there's so many different, options out there for selling your work online.
Okay. Is there a tutorial for making your own watermark, or can you buy them to use on your artwork?
I think you kind of just have to put it in there. I've never actually done it myself on my artwork, but there is an app that I have used to like put text over something like to make a flyer online, like, for my online draw club that I'm doing. There's a photograph on my Instagram that is just like a work of art and it says online draw club on top of it with some text. It's called Fonto, Phonto, like a combination of the word photo and font, I guess, Fonto. Anyway, that's a free app where you can put text over work. But I mean, you could also do it, in Photoshop or different editing programs as well and kind of make, you know, like put the watermark in there on top of the photograph that way, on top of the photograph of your art. I think that's a good suggestion. If somebody has a better suggestion for putting the watermark in there, then because I know it's nice when it can be kind of transparent. I'm not exactly sure about that.
How do you feel about pricing paintings based on square inches so a larger painting is a larger price?
Um, I don't I don't do that. So that's not how I price my work, but I know a lot of people price their work that way. I've thought about pricing my art that way and then decided, no, I don't want to do that. That's not how I want to do it. I've also seen people price their work based on the number of hours, like giving themselves an hourly rate. And one, just for some context, one of my best-selling works of art, like sold it the original for thousands of dollars, have sold more prints of it than any other original work of art that I have. I painted it in an hour from my imagination with no reference photo. So it was an abstract cloud. It's on my online shop if you want to go look at it. It's called Suspension is the title of that work. And I've never kept track of how much money I've made off of that, but I painted that in an hour. So I'm really glad I don't have some hourly rate. Otherwise, my hourly rate would be really high based on that. So I like pricing things the way that I have priced them, and I have made those sales and I've been comfortable with those sales. And going forward, it feels, that's what works for me. But, do whatever you feel works best for you. And if that makes sense to price it by the square inch for you, then do that. Or if it makes sense for you to do kind of have an hourly rate for yourself. But yeah, I like intuitive pricing too. Thank you, Jacqueline. Because I mean, and here's another example of why I like that. When I first made that piece Suspension, I was asking, um, like I would say a third of the price that I originally sold it for, and it didn't sell. But I had people interested, and then I showed it again in a show, and I had it priced at twice that amount, and it didn't sell. And then the third time I showed it, I was like, I really think this is worth three times my original asking price. And then it sold for that price. So it was like that felt really good to me. I feel like that was what it was worth. And then, like I said, I've sold more prints of that piece, so I think it was the right move.
After you sell the original, can you still sell a print? Do you need to check with the original buyer?
No, you own the copyright to your intellectual property. Just because that person purchased your original art does not mean they purchased, your intellectual property. You can still sell prints of it as long as you want.
When we say prints, what exactly do we mean?
You're having the work photographed or scanned, and then you're having it printed on like a canvas, or a piece of paper, like a Gicley print. Maybe you've heard that word. It's an archival quality print. It's a printout of the work, of the original work. It's a copy of the work.
How do you market your art?
Um, I honestly post on Instagram. That's kind of the main thing that I do. And then I have, I think uh, word of mouth is very powerful. Being a part of the Austin Studio Tour, being a member of, certain, like uh, a member of the Women in Their Work gallery in Austin, or they have a membership program called Art Divas, is the name of it. And I'm an art diva, and I go to those networking events and I meet collectors and people that way. And but mostly just opening up my studio and having, people, I mean, hundreds and thousands of people come through for the Austin Studio Tour, and I've made a lot of big sales that way. And, sometimes it's like I don't make any sales and it feels like a bummer. But then I just made one really big sale during the studio tour this past fall. And it was from a person who had seen my work 4 years ago and came back specifically looking for these two pieces to see if I still had them. And they had been hanging behind my couch for 4 years, but I just decided to take them down and hang them up for the studio tour. And then this person came back specifically looking for them and ended up buying them for a price that we were both really comfortable with. And that was really cool because it was like, you never know. You might be planting seeds and the sale might not happen then. It might happen 4 years later randomly. So yeah, it was very divine timing. I felt like I'm a big believer in that. So I was like, they were meant for her. There's a reason I decided to take them down off of the couch from behind the couch and put them up for sale again.
Are you able to make it as a full-time artist surviving on just your work?
I am doing that right now. Yes, it is very rewarding. This is the third time in my career that I have been freelancing primarily, and it can feel a little scary sometimes not knowing where my next big paycheck is coming from. But I have about 3 to 4 different jobs at the moment, and yeah, I am sustaining myself, and I have 2 kids, and living the dream. Maybe not rolling in it or anything, but I'm grateful for these classes that I teach for Michaels, and I love teaching in-person classes at the Contemporary Austin. And then yeah, very passionate about making my art, and I do okay surviving on my art at the moment. So I highly recommend it. It definitely takes some tenacity and some commitment to not giving up. And I definitely have gotten scared and taken 9 to 5 jobs in the past, whenever I was attempting to sustain myself on a freelancing salary. But looking now that I'm doing it now, and I've been doing it since March of this year, I feel like I wish I had stuck it out the other times. Not that those 9 to 5 jobs that I took weren't, rewarding in some way at the time, but it's really nice being able to pick my kids up from school at 3 o'clock and take a nap in the middle of the day on a Thursday and stuff like that. So I recommend it if you have the guts to try it. Just believe in yourself.
I was told that you are considered a consultant. Will that be the 33% federal tax that you have to pay every year?
Wow, that's a interesting question, that I should maybe ask my accountant. Um, I really don't know the answer to that question.
Probably want to work with a professional when it comes to taxing.
Yeah, I have an accountant who I think is really worth, but definitely if you're working, as a freelance artist, I recommend getting a good accountant for small businesses, and I have one of those, so.
Any information on licensing?
You can become an LLC or a sole proprietor. You just go down to your local, um, I'm trying to think what the office is called, like the state office where you register things like that. And you can you just fill out a form and do that. But also if you are submitting your taxes as like a small business, then that counts as well. So
Have you worked with NFTs? Any references or pointers for selling NFTs of my own work?
no, I have
No.
not done it. We have no comment about NFTs.
Oh
No,
man, we have a
no
lot of questions still coming in.
That's what I say.
um,
No FTs. I don't even know what FT stands for.
how do you develop an audience slash clientele when starting out so that people are actually interested in buying your work?
Oh, that's a good question. I keep a little notebook at the front of my studio for everybody who comes through. And if they want to stay in touch, I take their name and email and I put them on a mailing list. And I have subscribed to my mailing list on my link tree that I showed you. So if you want to subscribe to it, I definitely don't send things out on it as often as I maybe should. Sometimes I send a lot of things, and then other times I don't for a long time. But will say if I have like the studio tour coming up or a certain class that I'm offering, like the online draw club, I pinged my mailing list recently about that. Or sometimes I'll give like coupons, like a promo code for people on my mailing list, like just for my mailing list, 20% off prints or whatever. And I use MailChimp for that.
How do you name your artwork?
How do I name it? I am a very dreamy person, and I am also a writer and very poetic. So I most of the time it's just like, whatever is like speaking to me. But sometimes I get like recently I got my partner to help me name a bunch of stuff, and there's a bunch of really funny titles on some work that I have for sale on my online shop right now. So if you're looking at the titles and you feel like some of them are inconsistent because they sound really dreamy or they sound really funny, it's probably because he came up with the title and I thought it was hilarious and I used it. Things my kids tell me are also helpful. What should I call this? And then my kid gives me a title and I'm like, that's the title.
So when doing art prints, what kind of paper would you recommend?
Um, I think that's really up to you. If you go to a print shop, they can suggest, I mean, the people who work at print shops like that, like I love my people at Miller Imaging in Austin. They are seriously my buddies, and I just, wish I could carry them around in my pocket. They're some of my favorite people in town, and they have, made suggestions for me. And they suggested that German etching watercolor paper since it's so similar to the watercolor paper that I use. And I've just been using that for years, but I have tried printing online before, and certain websites will send you like a little sample thing of like it's a little binder ring with a bunch of different paper samples on it. So you might, request something like that from a printer and then choose the paper that you're going to print on based on samples.
Why would you have to edit the picture of the art?
Mainly just if the like, let's say you took the picture and you can see like it's just crooked, it's not straight, or you can see a shadow of your hand on it or something like that. You might want to crop that out and, reduce the shadows or turn up the highlights, etc., so that it doesn't have those, unwanted things in it like that.
Hold on one second.
Thank you so much, Chanel, for leading through all the questions for me like
No
this.
problem. Um,
They built up so quickly. I was like,
they really did.
once I said I'd wait, I was like, oh geez, there's a lot there.
Is the watermark the best way to keep your work from being stolen online? Is it safe to put work online without a watermark?
Yeah, I definitely know people who just don't post their work online because of, especially like nowadays with the AI. And for that reason, and I'll admit there's a lot of things I keep to myself and just don't post as well. They're in my studio, they're in my online shop, but I'm not posting them on Instagram. Just because, well, for a number of reasons. But yeah, you always have the choice to just not share it. But I think a watermark is a good idea. I've never done it myself, but I think it's a good idea.
Is there a standard arrangement for fees? Hold on, let me find the question again really quick. Um, um, is there a standard arrangement and or fee structure with a gallery?
Uh, it varies. I used to actually own and operate a gallery, Moon Gallery and Studio in Austin, Texas, with my studio mate and business partner, Lauren Tarbell. And you can still go check out our Instagram page, Moon Gallery and Studio. It's still there, even though we don't operate as that anymore. But when we hosted group exhibitions, we took 30% of a sale. And I think that's pretty standard, but some galleries take 50%. And that can sometimes be a standard as well. So it really just depends. But I think 30 to 50% is pretty standard.
How do you find shows where you enter a few works rather than shows where you have a booth? I seem to only be able to find the booth type shows.
Um, I think even just right now from this conversation, like if you've got your phone nearby, the algorithm is listening. I feel like just from making this slideshow, I have seen so many things popping up in my Instagram feed in the last few days based on the topics of what we're discussing tonight. So, just like searching for that stuff. Like if you're not seeing any other opportunities for artists, maybe you'll see some now posted for you. Like you're kind of manifesting it and calling it if you're speaking it out loud near your smartphone. But I'm half joking, but I'm really not. But also you can, just do a Google search. There is one thing that I subscribe to. I think it's called Call for Entries. I'm not exactly sure when I signed up for that, but I get these emails all the time with like just, you know, like call for entries like around the world and that have deadlines coming up. And we actually even submitted when we ran Moon Gallery and Studio, we submitted our call for entries there so that other artists would be alerted, that we had a group exhibition coming up and we're seeking entries for group shows. So, just search online and you'll find them, or you can sign up, to be notified for call for entries.
Do you have any online printing vendor recommendations?
I do not, because I have tried those and I have not been satisfied in the way that I have been with Miller Imaging, and I don't like the lack of control that I have when ordering prints online. And yeah, I've not been satisfied with the results from doing it that way. And what I like about going to a print shop is they'll print out a proof and I can see the proof. I can see what it's going to look like before I purchase the prints.
If an artist is represented by a gallery for a specific type of art, say sculpture, and agree that only the gallery can sell the art in a particular area, can other art, non-sculpture, be sold independently or of the gallery contract? The contract is vague.
Oh, I don't know, that's a really complicated question. That sounds like a really specific example. I'm not sure. Am I missing? Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry. I
Yes.
might have just gotten a little lost there.
If an artist is represented by an art gallery for a specific type of art, say sculpture, and agree that only the gallery can sell the art in a particular area, can other art, non-sculpture, be sold independently of the gallery contract? That
Oh,
you might want to consult a
no.
lawyer.
Yeah, you might consult a lawyer for like the specifics of a contract like that before you sign it. But I would say if you're just exhibiting that one particular work, that the gallery, they can't make a sale for anything else other than the thing you have on exhibit there.
Um, let's see. I think that we're pretty much almost done. Let me just.
Okay, I appreciate you letting us go over a little bit like this, Chanel, to
It's not a
help me answer all
problem.
these questions. I see one, Cynthia just asked, is it a scam when call for entries require an entry fee? No, not necessarily. Depending on, just what you're willing to pay for an entry fee. I've definitely looked at some call for entries and felt like it's just not in alignment with what I'm wanting to do with my work, if like taking into account all the others, aspects of that call. But like, for example, when we had Moon Gallery and Studio, we asked for an entry fee because, it costs money to run a group exhibition and we're doing a lot of work to, look at the entries, select the entries, all the communication, receiving the work, installing the work, having the opening party, providing snacks, like all the things that go into having that group exhibition, like having people pay a small, entry fee to help us be able to do all of that stuff in order for them to, exhibit the work. I think it's a reasonable ask. It's just depending on, what your budget is. If you can't afford that entry fee, then, don't do it.
Cynthia asked how much as like a follow-up question, and then ballpark figure. I think it's referring to what you just answered as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it really just depends, like on the gallery, but I feel like, $20, $25, like I'll pay that. If there's a chance like I might not be selected, and they want more than $25, then, I don't know. It's not worth it to me to like just throw, like let's say $50 away if they're just going to be like, you weren't selected. But I feel like $25 is worth it for me. I don't know. It's up to you what you're willing to spend to submit your work to a particular gallery.
Susanna asked, can you start selling your art if you haven't registered it as a business, LLC, or is it best to do so first? And then she also asked, also, do you recommend to have your business and art be under a business name or just your name as an artist?
Yeah, you don't have to become an LLC or, I mean, I'll just go ahead and share that I am not an LLC, but I have been filing my taxes as Adrian Hodge Fine Art for several years now. And so that, is totally fine for my income tax purposes. And yeah, you don't have to register in order to, submit your income. The IRS will take your money.
All right, so it looks like this is the last question. What is your best-selling item that is not an original or a print? Bookmark, notebook, etc.
Oh, can you repeat it? I got a little distracted. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. What is your best-selling item that is not an original or a print? Bookmark, notebook, etc.
Oh, yeah, those notebooks sell really well. Especially because, I feel like I wouldn't buy a little notebook for more than, like sometimes I price them like when I really love what I painted on the cover, I'll do like $25. But for a small like pocket notebook, I feel like that's kind of the max I would charge for it. But sometimes I've sold some that I'm like, oh, I wish I still had that one. Like, sometimes they turn out really fun. So you can get an original paint. I've had people buy them and tell me they're going to put them in frames, that they're not going to use them. And I'm always really flattered by that. But yeah, uh, I've sold a lot of those notebooks over the years. I sell them in person. I have put them up on my website before, but then it's a lot to maintain to go in and take them down when they sell, since they tend to sell so fast. So if, you ever see me on Instagram, like say that I made a new batch of them, or sometimes people will message me on Instagram and say, can you share what notebooks you have in stock? And I'll send a picture of the ones I have available. And then they, Venmo me, and then I mail them the notebook. So I know it's kind of like more of an in-person thing. I just buy craft notebooks and paint on the covers of them, like the brown, craft paper notebooks. They're just plain notebooks, and I paint on the covers, or, you know, plain bookmarks, wooden bookmarks.
Um, how much do you sell cards for?
I do not sell cards, but I have done a commission for somebody where I painted like a card, painted an image that they wanted to have printed on a card. I just, did it like a commission pricing, and then they had them printed.
How do you seal the paint on your notebooks?
I don't. They're just hand painted notebooks. Entropy, y'all. Not everything is meant to last forever.
Would it be better to stick with using your name as your business or as an artist name or create a name?
It depends on what you do. Like, if it feels like for the purpose of what you're selling that it makes more sense to have like a catchy name for it, then do that. Or, I mean, that's really up to you.
That looks like it's all the questions.
Oh, I like Suzanne said or Susanna, we don't have to seal the art even if it's on canvas. I mean, I guess I could try to seal them on the notebooks. I do use a sealant on my like this work you see behind me here. I do use a sealant on it. But I'm mostly just joking about the notebooks, but also they're, I don't know like how archival that would even be if I were to spray them with a sealant. So I just I just don't for those things. I have thought about adding oh my God, what's it called to like seal the bookmarks, but I just haven't. I mean, they're just small price point things, and I think it's really more like the novelty and the fun of them. But yeah, if you want to seal yours and make them um, you know, more durable in that way, then I definitely encourage you to do that. And yeah, definitely for your canvas work, it's good to use a sealer.
Okay, we did have a couple more questions come in. Um, so art I create with a glow forge is also mine. I can create and seek. Oh, I'm sorry. They had a typo in the middle. So art I create with a glow forge is also mine. I can create and sell those, right?
What is a glow forge?
It's like what are they called? They're the machines that you have at home that you can like make different cards and like you can do a bunch of different um I'm trying to think of what the popular one is called.
Oh, like the Cricut?
Oh, it's a 3D laser printer. That's right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, if it's your original work, then
And yes, Cricut is what I was thinking of.
oh, okay, yeah, Cricut. I'm saying Cricut.
Would you ever think about, oops, sorry. Would you ever think about making a quick Zoom meeting class about going over how to start and make your own booth for art pieces?
Possibly, but I also, do offer you know, the private lessons and private consulting work as well. So, you know, but I don't do a whole lot of booth work. I tend to work more like I said, I'd like the studio tours. I kind of consider that to be the booth work. I have done a couple of booth like art where I've run a booth, of my work at um, like a market or a thing like that. And it it just hasn't been for me. I know a lot of people who do a lot of booth work, and it's a lot of prep that goes into that. And it hasn't, I think my work is a little more on the fine art side and doesn't really work for booth stuff, but definitely like the notebooks and the bookmarks are the type of things that would probably do better in a booth. But I make such a limited run of those. Whenever I do, I might have like 10 or 15 because they do take me some time to make them. So it makes more sense for me to just put them on the table in my studio. They sell pretty well that way. Um, it's not very in alignment with what I do. I tend to be more on the fine art side. Not that booth work isn't fine art, and there are plenty of like higher level booths. There's like one is called the Other Art Fair, is one that they do in Texas. And there's a lot of really high-end fine artists who exhibit work at the Other Art Fair. I have not submitted to that yet, but some of fairs like that do require a pretty high entry fee too, or a really high booth fee. So you're paying a lot of money to even just be there. So you really want to make a sale happen. And, so it's a risk. A lot of things like we were talking about entry fees to galleries, it's just a risk. It's the overhead versus profit. It's a gamble that you're taking when you submit to things like that.
How do you check if a name is already in use or not? I'm assuming for a business or LLC.
Yeah, I think you would have to just, do some research, search around online and see if you can find that name in use by anybody. I guess you could try to have it registered too. And yeah, Valerie, Google it.
What is the product to seal the paint on canvas or in the water pad?
Yeah, I don't know, my brain is like running out of bandwidth, I think, at the moment. I'm thinking on what I'm like, this is so sad. What do you pour on oil paint? Because I don't typically work with oil paintings, so it's not, but I use a sealer for my calligraphy work. They maybe not sure if they sell it at Michael's, but the Golden brand, I use like a spray fixative that says on the can what mediums it will work to seal in, and that's what I will spray on my ink work.
Is it worth it to try and sell art in an artist alley at a convention?
Yeah, I feel like that's, up to you. Like, what is the specific, you know, thing that you're wanting to sell at? And is there a booth fee and is it worth it? And et cetera. That's more of like an individual question to ask yourself.
I don't see any other questions. There's a lot of comments thanking you and saying that was a very informative class, though.
Okay, yeah, I've seen some of those. Thank you. Thank you all so much. This has been wonderful. And yeah, it's nice that so many of y'all stuck around for this Q&A. And thank you to Chanel. Thank you, Chanel, for staying and moderating all these questions. And um, yeah, if y'all have a good rest of your night, and hopefully I'll see you in a future Michael's class. And feel free to stay in touch with me if are interested in like a consulting session or a private lesson or my online draw club or any of that fun stuff. Love to see you again. Thank y'all and have a great evening.